Alright, what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining in to the 4th episode of the Creativity Beats podcast. I'm your host, Omito, and today's episode, I'm going to be talking about balancing school, work, and music. You know, how do you balance all these things and still have time for music, right? Work, school, music, other hobbies, maybe family life. How do you have time for all this? I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day. You gotta sleep for a lot of those hours. You gotta do certain things. And, you know, a lot of people have 9 to 5 jobs, 8 hours a day, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week people are working. And, there's other people who are crazy busy with college semesters. Like, I've been there, right? So I wanted to talk about this episode today because I used to get asked this question a lot, especially last year and the year before that. Just giving some background information, I graduated college at the end of the summer in 2017. So I think that was like 7 months ago. I'm gonna say 7 months ago. And man, I'll tell you, I had a crazy busy semester in college. That last semester really took a lot out of me. It was really busy. And, at times it was hard to balance music and college. And I've, had other jobs before that I was still balancing music. I've had times in my life where I had, a full-time job, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, doing school projects and doing music. And it's definitely a lot to take on, but I used to have a lot of people ask me. I don't really have as many people ask me anymore because since I'm out of college, music is my full-time focus right now. I don't have a lot of other things going on in my life besides this, but I used to get asked this question like a ton, right? So I survived. It was definitely a struggle, but I think I have some tips that I think there are some of you out there who will really benefit from. So I think that my number one tip on balancing school, work, music, whatever, is you have to make use of all your time possible. Sometimes if you have a half an hour between a class, or you have an hour break at your job, or anything, you have to make use of that time. And I'll just give a background story of when I was in college a couple years back. I would take a 30-minute bus ride. It took me 30 minutes to get to the campus. So 30 minutes, there, 30 minutes on the way home. I was in school 4 or 5 days a week. That's an hour a day. I didn't just want to sit there and just, stare out the window or go on Reddit on my phone or something. So a lot of days I would get on the bus, and since I was, selling beats at this time still, I would just spend that 30 minutes and reply to as many emails and messages as I can. And then I would, on the way home, maybe I would do the same thing, or go onto Instagram, go onto Twitter. It's like I found that 30 minutes a day where I was just sitting there, and I wanted to do something of it, right? Because I would make use of that time, and then I would come home, I would work on new beats in my studio, or do schoolwork then, or sometimes it would be, the opposite, right? I'd finish a class, come home on the bus for 30 minutes, do all my homework then, all my assignments, get all my study notes done then, and then come home, and then I would just have that time open to making beats, right? And I know this isn't the same for, all jobs, but if you're, in a job where, like, I used to work this part-time gig a while back, in the, winter months, it was, dead in the store. So sometimes I would just pull out my phone and, reply to people who were messaging me on Instagram, or I would message people on Instagram, because I used to do that a lot too, right? So you have to find a lot of things in your day where, you're just, you're just sitting there, you're not maybe doing a whole lot, and it's something that you could be doing. If you're an artist, maybe that means if you've got an hour lunch break at your work, you grab your notepad or you grab your phone, and you start writing lyrics. You start thinking of ideas for your project. If you're an artist, or you could be looking for beats on your lunch break, right? to get for your next project. If you're a producer, you know, set up a mobile studio, right? It was so crucial for me in my college years to have a mobile setup. So I had FL Studio on my laptop, you know, with all my plugins, with all my VSTs, drum kits, etc. Because if I had an hour in between class, or class ended and the bus wasn't coming for, you know, 40 minutes, I'd like make beats, right? Have my headphones with me, make beats on the go. And I don't really have a mobile setup now, but it's something that I have to do because, you know, there might be a time soon where I'm just out somewhere and I could just be like, I really wish, you know, I had a mobile setup so I can make a beat right now, right? So yeah, you've just got to make use of all your time possible. And this sort of leads into my next point of how, you know, don't waste time doing dumb stuff, right? Like, I mean, everyone's got to have like hobbies and things to take their mind off of it. But when I was really focusing hard on my YouTube channel and really trying to start building my brand and make this beats thing something big years ago, I mean, I didn't do much besides making beats. Like, I cut off a whole bunch of distractions. You know, I didn't go out to parties, didn't go to clubs, I didn't even see like many, you know, movies when I was really focusing on building my brand. And it's an opportunity cost that you have to make. It's a sacrifice. Like, for example, you know, Infinity War, the Marvel movie, the Avengers Infinity War comes out in what does it come out in like a month or something, and you have to watch like 17, 18 movies before Infinity War to get like the whole backstory. And I didn't see like 95% of these movies, you know, because when they were all coming out like 10 years ago or whatever it was, when Iron Man came out, I wasn't big into movies because like music was my focus, right? So I spent all my time focusing on music, and I realize now, because I'm going back and I'm watching through them all, that I missed so many dope movies. But like I still give myself some time for entertainment and some time as a break, because you need that break to recharge. But yeah, before I saw Black Panther, I saw Doctor Strange, which came out what, like a year or two before that, and I hadn't seen any of the movies. And I always talk with my friends about, you know, some like the big movies that everyone's seen, and I haven't like seen any of those. And that's just not saying that like I don't have a life, but when I was building my brand and getting into this music game, I spent so much time just focusing on music, just, you know, staying focused, really locking down and grinding, right? Also, another thing is you have to cut out other distractions and time wasters. Like, you know, I know Fortnite is this big game right now, and I love it. I have it on my studio computer because it's a gaming PC, and if I didn't restrict myself, I would be playing this game like hours in every day, you know? I don't have Fortnite on my MacBook, like my MacBook Pro, my laptop, and this is because I keep my MacBook Pro as a laptop. This is my work computer, and this is only things that I have. Basically, I have, you know, Chrome for any emails or marketing, or, you know, Facebook messages, Twitter messages, all I'm doing. And I have the Adobe products for editing stuff like this podcast, or editing, you know, my thumbnails, editing videos for Instagram. And I know that if I had Fortnite on this MacBook Pro, because this MacBook Pro like travels with me, you know, a lot, or even when I'm just around the house working, I know that if I had Fortnite or other video games on this laptop, that I would have, you know, this addicting video game with me at all times. And then it wouldn't, like, what's gonna stop me from just like seeing it in the taskbar or the toolbar or whatever it's called, and just loading up and wasting hours on it? I have it on my studio computer because it's a better computer, but also I'm not in my studio, you know, 24 hours a day, right? I'll go around the house, I'll go out, and I'll do work from my laptop. But since I'm not at home where my where this game is, I can get more work done, right? So another point that I want to talk about, and this sort of makes sense to my earlier point of how you have to make use of all your time in the day. Sometimes you gotta pull all-nighters. I mean, sometimes you gotta make sacrifices to get 5, 6, I mean, that's like good, like 5, 6 hours. Sometimes you have nights where, you know, you're doing 3 hours of sleep, right? That's just like a nap. But I remember when I finished high school and got into college, which was only like 4 years ago, and that was when, you know, my YouTube channel really started to pick up traction, and I was trying to network with as many artists and producers as possible, just anyone in the music scene. I would be living, and I don't know how I did this because it's like a struggle for me now 4 years later, but I would be living off of 5, 6 hours sleep constantly, right? Every night I would just work on music in my studio, making beats, making songs, hitting up artists, making those relations, you know, until the late hours in the night, right? And I spent so many years doing that, but that was crucial to the setup of my brand. That's how I got where I am today, because I worked like a maniac for years when I saw that, you know, results were pouring in. And even now, sometimes, you know, I'll stay up super late, or I'll pull like an all-nighter working on new music, or there's some artists that I'm working on right now where I'm working on a lot of custom stuff with them, mixing and mastering their songs. Even stuff like setting up this podcast, or trying to get back into the YouTube game, or get my stuff on Spotify. Like, these are all stuff that I'm focusing on now that's taking, you know, it's a lot of work involved, right? So I'll have times where you know, my day will be over and I'll get home at like 10 at night after going out for the evening, and I'll just like work until, you know, until like I'm tired, till like I can't work anymore. But, you know, those nights I don't mind getting few hours of sleep, because I know that the reward for that, it's not a problem if you're doing something that you love. Like working on music and losing 6 hours sleep a night that you could have got, but instead, you know, you're working on your album that you have so much passion towards, that you're sure it's gonna take off and you're having a lot of fun doing it. Who cares about sleep, right? This is a quote that I always kind of say to myself in my head whenever I'm, you know, like tired the next day, but I know that I had a super productive evening, and I say this quote to myself like all the time, but it's like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like, for real, like when I'm dead, that's when I can't work anymore. And who needs sleep now? I'd rather spend some time working on new music, or doing something that's going to take my music to the next level, right? I mean, if you lose a few hours of sleep a week, like you're not gonna die, right? You're not gonna live shorter life, you're not gonna explode. But I mean, it's, for me, like, I don't have a problem with that, because I love doing music so much, and I would stay up, you know, endless hours working on this stuff. And another point that I have that's about, you know, time saving and how you can balance your music and your school life and your work is to automate your process wherever possible. Like, I used to do this a lot back in high school and college when I would, you know, have a busy time coming up, is I would, you know, sit down for maybe a day and make a ton of beats. Just have one of those days where you're just like, keep on putting out beats and beats and beats. And then I would make videos for them all, and I would schedule them on YouTube. I would schedule, you know, 2-3 videos a week for like a month at a time. And then I would take those scheduled videos and I would schedule my tweets on Twitter, right? You know, it's like for the whole month, like I had like everything planned out. So I didn't have to, you know, after every new video, I didn't have to sit down, think of the graphics, export the video, upload it. I just book a day, and I just, for the whole month, I would do that at once. And even now I'm learning, as I'm been producing music and been on the online beat game for so long, is that, you know, you really start to like know the process of it. And I'm trying to make, you know, my beats into like a fine-tuned machine, like a well-oiled machine, where every time I finish a beat, I want to, you know, export the stems, export the master files, upload that to Dropbox. While that's uploading, you know, go to BeatStars, upload it there, put in all the tags, and then that uploads to my website. And then at the same time, you know, while those files are uploading, load up the After Effects project file that I have for my videos, dump the MP3 in there, render that, and then, you know, while I finish putting the beat on my website, the video saves, upload the beat to YouTube while it's uploading to YouTube. you know, sync it to my phone, put it on Instagram, and then it's like it's everywhere I need in a matter of, you know, minutes of finishing the song. So you really need to start to learn the process and just like move quickly, move efficiently with it. You know, I sort of talked about this in my last point, that you just have to have passion with it. Like, music is an art form. Writing songs is an art form. Making beats is an art form. And when it comes to a point where you're not having fun with it anymore, just all creativity and everything good about your song has just been, you know, thrown out the window, right? Like, I've worked on custom beats for a lot of artists before, and sometimes, you know, we might get frustrated if it maybe isn't, you know, ideas aren't being portrayed through. Maybe there's a certain sound that we're both going after, but it's not really working out. And there's, you know, times where sometimes, like I remember this one artist I was working on a song for, we were going after this really specific sound, this really creative idea. And we kept going back and forth on stuff we would do to the track, thinking that we were getting there. And it was like every time we added something new to this song, it was like a step backwards. And it just got to the point where we were just so like stressed about making this idea that, you know, we set ourselves back a few steps. So at that point, we paused it for a sec. We were like, hey, you know, this isn't working. We're killing ourselves to make this sound that we don't even have yet, and it's just not fun anymore, and it's taken away from the quality of the song. So you always need to make sure that you have a passion and you're having fun with what you do. It's not work if you're having fun what you're doing, right? You know, sometimes I still consider music to be a hobby of mine, even though it's like my full-time gig right now, and it's, you know, provided me enough income after all these years to live off of this and to rely on it. But it's crazy because it's still my number one hobby, right? And, you know, I think to myself sometimes, if all this goes south, if none of my beats ever sell again, you know, if none of my videos ever get any plays again, am I still gonna work on music? And the answer is yes, I would, 100%. If it was still a hobby, I'd still, you know, come home every day after like a new job that I would have to get, and I'd still just mess around making beats, right? Because it's something that I love, and that's why I don't have a problem with putting all my time into it.